Our next question. As elected officials, where would you have found the most frustration in your efforts to enact legislation to help the economy? And what kind of legislation would you prioritize? We're going to start with Senator Vargas.
Look, the one thing that I want to make sure to do on working on enacting legislation is one of the things I continue to hear right now, which is we have to address our economy. We need to make sure we are investing in addressing our spending costs, but we also need to make sure that we are investing in people again. And as a member of the Appropriations Committee, I have prioritized investing in jobs, in workforce, and in people, and in our education system, while also controlling our spending. And then when I have the opportunity in Congress, what I want to make sure we do is continuing to make that record on investing in working families. The easiest way for us to do that is to make sure we're prioritizing trying to give a middle-class tax cut and controlling our spending as much as possible. But unfortunately, Congressman Bacon, when he had the opportunity, he voted against actually providing a middle-class tax cut for working families. Look, I've bucked my party before. And I think one of the things I want to work on is also creating the types of jobs here. That's why trying to bring domestic jobs and making us more competitive on a global scale is critical. Unfortunately, Congressman Bacon voted against the CHIPS Act, which would invest in jobs here in Nebraska and make us more competitive. I want to take my record of working across the aisle and getting things done, and on behalf of working families, to Congress. But because it's clear, Congressman Bacon continues to focus on the ultra-wealthy and the corporate interests, and I want to make sure I'm fighting for both businesses and people.
Congressman.
Again, I have to remind folks and Tony, he was rated 49 of 49 by the American Conservative Union, the most liberal man in the Senate until he decided to run for the House. And the AFP, for Americans for Prosperity, rated him at 43% before he decided to run for Congress. That's the real Tony Vargas. And I support tax cuts. I have voted for all tax cuts, period. And we did do a middle-class permit, or a middle-class tax cut back in 2017 when the average family, middle-class families, got $2,000 back. But it also had business taxes lowered to 21%, which is the average in the world. And so to your question, Julie, one of the things that are most frustrating is how this gets demagogued. When the average family, 95% of the families got a tax cut, folks like Tony want to disparage it, say it didn't happen, but it did happen. 95% got money back. Average family, $2,000. Now, the one thing we have to do is make those tax cuts permanent. And that is the frustration because the other side of the aisles fought that because they don't want to make those tax cuts permanent. And I hope that this year, when we're in the majority, we can pass it again out of the House, hopefully we can get it out of the Senate, and maybe we can convince President Biden to pass these tax cuts and make them permanent. I also want to talk about the Social Security and Medicare. I'm one of the few people who have offered solutions working with Democrats. That's why the AARP recognized me as being a man of courage or a legislator of courage, because I am trying to save it. Folks like Tony don't want to offer any suggestions, and if we do nothing, it will go insolvent in 2035. I want to save it.
Senator Vargas, your rebuttal.
The public should know that both of us voted for tax cuts. Mine are actually permanent. Congressman Bacon already said that they're not permanent for you. But he really fought on behalf of corporate interests in this bill. They're the ones that got the biggest piece of the pie. And that's a threat to him, because if the public knows that the people that got the most cuts in this are the ultra wealthy and the corporate interests in this country, but not you. There's not a permanent tax cut in there for you. But I fought for permanent tax cuts in Nebraska. I voted for it and showed up and voted for that. At the end of the day, I'm a product of a working class family. I want to make sure that I'm making it easier for families, not harder.
Congressman, your rebuttal.
He proposed to make Nebraska the 5th highest income tax state. It was his bill. He wrote it. And now he's trying to walk away from it. And he opposed the tax cuts at every step of the way till the last minute when he knew it was going to pass. And Lou Ann Linehan's going to be very public about this in the weeks to come, and others that Tony served with. They don't like the deception, just the talking down to the voters here as if they won't figure this out. But if you oppose a bill at every step and then switch at the last minute once you know it's going to pass, we know the truth. And when it comes to business taxes, the average in the world is 21%. We were at 35%. We lowered it to 21%. We want American business to be on the same playing field so our businessmen and women can win, compete, and be the best businessmen, the most successful businessmen and women in the world.